All right, looks like we're recording. Hey, everybody. Welcome for Volume 4 of Hurt Pressure, top 5 classic video games. As you can tell, we're stepping up our game with adding music. And then this music is here to tell you that the original Anapolitan himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Eric Walukonis joins us for Volume 4. Thank you for joining us, sir. We greatly appreciate you being here.
I appreciate that introduction there, Danny. It's an excellent song choice.
I figured I had to do something to keep you awake since the last time you were invited, you fell asleep and left us, basically left for dead with DJ Zito as part of our podcast.
And I know. I'm sorry that I made you guys. I forced you guys into picking DJ. That should never happen again.
So this was a fun one this week, guys. I thought enjoyed thinking and kind of reflecting on some of the good old days of video games. Not that I don't play them now, but just I feel like the glory days for me were, prior to the realistic stuff almost. So I hope you guys had as much as fun as I did. It was hard for me to kind of narrow down to 5, to be honest. But we're going to get started, and if you don't know the format, we're going to go 5 to 1, and we always start with the guest. So please do, of course.
So the topic is top 5 old school video games. So we used the release of the PlayStation 2 in Japan as the benchmark. So any games before March 4th, 2000 are eligible for the list. So any game over 20 years old pretty much is eligible for the list.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry for me not clarifying. I apologize. All right, Konis, what you got for number 5, sir?
Number 5. So I didn't, if you guys don't mind, my 3 kind of criteria for ranking these were how replayable they were.
Sure.
The fun factor, and how challenging they were. So, and I didn't want to, as I've gotten older, a lot of my games are sports related. So I didn't want to make a whole sports list. But number 5 is a sports game. It's also the only Sega game that I have on my list, and it's NHL 95. And I know the consensus is NHL 93 was like the best, and they're all kind of the same. But I don't remember specifically playing NHL 93, and I for sure know I played NHL 95. I wasn't going to put a game on my list that I hadn't played. So NHL 95, number 5 for me.
Ryan, what do you think about the NHL series?
I love them too. I got to find place for NHL 93 because that's the one I had. I think the internet considers NHL 94 to be the best one of all time. So dominant and so good. Like hometown team, play with a cat, be amazing. And had everything from checking somebody and then breaking their head open on the face. You can have fights in the game. I don't know. Great game.
You might need to get closer to your Wi-Fi, sir. You were skipping quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Ronnie, what do you think? Did you play any of the NHL games? Was that on?
I did play some of the NHL games, not as much as you guys probably, but I've always liked hockey games. I think out of all the sports games, hockey games tend to be the most fun. They, aren't as, I guess, widely buggy as football games, or they aren't insane. Games like a lot of baseball games where I had Albert Bell hit like 120 home runs in the 30-game season for the Orioles. So NHL games to me are kind of realistic, and I like them. So I like that pick.
Yeah, won't go too far in because one of the NHLs made my list. But yeah, the NHL series I thought were solid. Definitely, I thought well done for the time frame or for the time period especially. So, um, Ryan, what do you got? Or
So for number 5, I got maybe the most influential game of all time that I think is Street Fighter 2. I got to pick one. I like Super Street Fighter 2, where you get the new challengers. There's not a fighting game out today that's not directly influenced or used Street Fighter as its base. I mean, it came up with some of the most iconic characters of all time. I mean, everybody knows Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Blanca. I mean, it spawned a delightful, horrible movie starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, which was great, which also they made into another fighting game, Street Fighter 2, the movie, which was even worse. I mean, I like this game because it's like, this was Ultimate Fighting before the UFC was a thing. It's like, all right, let's take this person from this part of the country with this fighting style and put them against this other person with another fighting style and see what happens. And I love that. And I love the old UFCs for that. Let's put a sumo guy against a karate guy and see what happens. I mean, it's also like decently balanced, especially for the age that it came out in. I mean, fighting games today get patch notes and stuff like that, and a lot of them don't even get close to being as balanced as Street Fighter 2. And I kind of use the same criteria as Eric, being everything on my list. I still go back and enjoy playing today, and you can have just as fun as today playing against a friend as somebody else. I mean, it's still a relevant game. They still have tournaments for Street Fighter 2 worldwide. So.
Ronnie, any thoughts on Street Fighter?
Yeah, I love Street Fighter 2. I used to play that so much when I was little. I remember this was before they had the combo system, and I remember, I don't even know if it was called developing my own combo, but I had a very specific button sequence I would use against people. And you hit them with like 5 different moves, you get them all dizzy, and then you hit them with like another 5, and by the end of it, they're pretty much dead. And me and my brothers used to play a ton. Me and my friends used to play a lot. Different versions of Street Fighter 2 specifically, which is kind of amazing that they made so many different versions. That's how good it was, and people just kept buying it. And yeah, I mean, who doesn't know what a Hadouken is?
Myself, I'm a button masher when it comes to Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, any of those kind of games. I have, you're not gonna want to talk to me about those games because I'm not the person to talk to. Definitely didn't make my top 5. Not saying that they shouldn't make it, but your boy, anytime that I can actually beat people sometimes that like know what they're doing. I feel like. Which I'm like, this is terrible. I just can't do this. And then when they beat me, I get mad because I don't know how to do the special moves. So I don't know. Conus, what do you think?
My question, so it was in my consideration for sure. It was just not a game that I was really like good at. So I think that had a large factor for me. But was there ever a Street Fighter original, like Street Fighter 1?
Yeah, there was. A lot of people don't know that, but it was, and you took your Ryu, and you just went against a set number of opponents, and then 2 players could hop in, and they were Ken. So those were the only 2 options. You couldn't choose other characters, but there was you were Ryu, and you went against other characters, and it was a terrible, terrible game. Inputs, they still had a lot of the same moves like Hadoukens and that, but to do, and it wasn't really fluid or anything like that. But yeah, it was one game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you though. It was super fun. Like I remember, taking days off of school and going down to Ryan's house and mashing buttons. But no, it was just like that arcade style because it's so much of it's the same, like basically the same format all the time. So like it's great for tournaments. But like, and I certainly agree with Ryan that it, any of those, like you even go into like Super Smash Brothers, like everyone has special moves and combos and stuff like that. So no, it's no qualms with it being on a top 5.
Although it was always weird beating up the car with people. It's like, man, aren't your legs and arms going to be broken after this?
The dude's made of electricity, Ronnie. It's all right.
All right, Ronnie, what do you got at number 5, sir?
All right, number 5. It might be on some other lists here, but I'm going to go with my favorite wrestling game, the one I play the most, WCW NWO World Tour. For the Nintendo 64, that game was fantastic. Like it was a 4-player game. You have 4 people out there. It was fun to play with other people, multiplayer wise, and it really just introduced like a smaller fighting game. I think most wrestling games are sort of judged against that formula that THQ or I guess 2K now had back then, where it wasn't like button combinations. It was more sort of strategy and getting close to people and backing out, and you could do all the special moves, and they had entrances, and it was just fun. And I always remember I was Lex Luger, my brother, and my 2 neighbors. We'd play, and then whenever I was Lex Luger and I had my special on, they'd all run out because you cannot escape the torture rack of doom.
So I didn't have a wrestling game on my list, but we talked a little bit before Ronnie came on. We were talking about how much pressure Ronnie has on him for being late, so his list better be good. He starts off well. I'm not as big on the WCW. I played a lot more of, I think, the WWE game, and I wasn't a big fan at the time, but man, it was fun, fun to play, easier to figure out than the Mortal Kombat, stuff like that. I felt like, and it kind of started that whole series, and now it's like I think they still make the game, but now they do UFC and I think that was kind of like they started using the format that the wrestling games had back then to make some of those games, these games now. So, I did think that it deserved to be on somebody's list. Wrestling games were always a lot of fun. Conus, what do you think? Wrestling fan.
I will give Ronnie 2 things here. It was the simplicity of it was what made it fun, because I think the WWE game at the time was Warzone, and
So many fun combinations.
Right. It was frustrating. And for it to have a 4-player game and actually like be tag teams and stuff like that, that was kind of cool. So like, it's kind of like it set the stage, but I wouldn't. I'd definitely give one of the WWF either No Mercy or WrestleMania, just because they made it better based off of that game. And I mean, one of the main guys on page 1 was Ultimo Dragon. Who remembers that guy? And also, why would you ever pick Lex Luger?
Lex Luger, baby, torture rack of doom, instant submission.
Ryan, I know you got some love for wrestling.
Yeah, it was good. I was definitely more of a WWE guy myself, along with WrestleMania and but this was the game that they just completely copied off of and took all the moves and everything from that game. And my friend had it, and we had a lot of fun with it. And I mean, it was a game that just fun to play overall. You don't have to be a wrestling fan. I would still play wrestling games after I got a WWE and stuff like that, because you could go in, create your own character, stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's a good pick.
So I guess that goes to me to number 5. This, like I said, this was tough for me. I just think, I kind of am old school. I go back. I really like Excite Bike, Paperboy, Tecmo Super Bowl. And NBA 2K, which kind of just snuck on a Dreamcast game, was like my number 6. I thought that game was fun, but my list is pretty heavy with sports. But number 5 for me is Major League Baseball featuring Ken Griffey Jr. Take you back to when young Drew Brees was just starting off at Purdue. We were listening. We were just getting to know Justin Timberlake as an adult. 1998, just a lot of hits. Including this game. I really think that this was probably there are fun baseball games, but this was probably for me the baseball game that I enjoyed the most. I know they had a home run derby. That kind of was cool to me. It was a little bit different. It added a little something different to the game than just the game. Kind of like how, I don't know if you guys remember Quarterback Club. And you could have to do the obstacle course, and it's just something a little bit different. You know what I mean? That kind of adds a little bit of a different flair to the game. So for me, it was the Major League Baseball featuring Ken Griffey Jr. For 64 was for me a game that I remember playing heavily that year, especially the summer. So, Jonas, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that was like I said, I didn't want to include too many games from the same genre. So Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball and NBA Jam was kind of like it was NHL 95 and then those other two, and I wanted to pick from those. But no, I agree. It was so different, and that you actually had a batter's eye view. I think that was one of the first games that did that. And the studs like Griffey, he was just dropping bombs because.
Wow, yeah.
But then you had Randy Johnson throwing 106 miles an hour and just dare you to hit it. No, it's an excellent choice for baseball.
And everybody loves Griffey, I feel like too.
Hard to hate.
I'm always a fan of video games where the namesake, they have no modesty whatsoever and they just make them fucking incredible.
Yep.
I mean, Ken Griffey was just so much better than everybody in that game and just would smash homers all the time, which I love. I thought it had cool music. When you're starting the game and stuff like that. I like the, pitching and hitting aspect where you could actually place the ball where you want it to when you're pitching.
Yeah.
When you're playing against a friend like that. So, yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah, I remember playing that game. It was on the Nintendo 64, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that game was that game was really cool. It is one of my favorite baseball games. I didn't put one on here. If I did put a baseball game, it would have been Baseball All Stars or Baseball Stars for Nintendo. Way back when, it was very advanced. You sort of had the player creation. You can make your own team. You could run a circuit against all the different teams in the game, and it was for the first sort of build your own team type game, and that was for regular Nintendo. But a game like Ken Griffey Jr. is fantastic, and it was very tight, and by that I mean there were no weird glitches. Everything was intuitive. Running was done well. All the controls, and that's the most thing I appreciate about that game and baseball games in general is when stuff makes sense. And if you're tapping A to steal, then and you push A in the wrong direction, it doesn't do something weird, And Ken Griffey Jr. is a simplistic control scheme, and they did a really good job making that game.
Yeah, it's
sure.
It's funny. The baseball game I was considering too, and it just missed the cutoff by 4 months for our date, was MVP Baseball by EA Sports.
Yeah.
Well, Drew Brees, played a lot of Griffey freshman year at Purdue, so I'm sure he's gonna like that one made list. Okay, so we got number 4. What you got up there, number 4?
Number 4. This is probably not on anyone else's list. But it's a game that I still play. I realized I could download it a few months ago. They've come out with a bunch of iterations on the phone, and they've redone it a bunch of times, and it was just never good as the original. And Roller Coaster Tycoon. It's
great game. The original,
I mean-
especially the computer version. I mean, it was great.
I mean, I'm playing. I'll give a shout out to Steam. Their platform that allows you to download it, and it's only $20, and you get all of the scenarios. And I play. Before we logged in, when we were waiting for Ronnie for about 3.5 hours there, I was
All right.
I was adjusting my park and getting nutty with it. But no, it's for a sim game. I mean, it's like the original. It was like I'd never seen anything like that. Like, you have to feed these people. You have to let them go to the bathroom, but you also have, like, you can't make roller coasters too extreme. No one will spend money to go on. So it was realistic in that sense, but you could also still have that, like, imagination and still do what you want within a reasonable level. And I think that's what makes it just, I've probably been playing it for, I think it came out in 98. So what are we, 2000? That's 22 years that I've been at least itching to play it. And now in the past year, I figured out a way to do it. Back at it.
That's countless building roller coasters that were too extreme for everybody. So you build all these things and then no one wants to go on it because it's too extreme, but it's still fun to do. I think it's just as fun to play the game the right way and want to build a park as it is to build out stuff, or like, you can make it so nobody could exit your park and everyone. You could drown people that were complaining too much. You had to hire those handymen to puke all the time. It was a great game.
Ryan, adjust your screen a little bit down. There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
You overcompensated a little bit. Just chin. You're just chin and nose now.
Tilt it up.
There you go.
There you go. There. No, I think that's a good pick. I do have a different simulation game on my list, but Roller Coaster Tycoon, yeah, you're right. Like, the early sim games are really kind of fun, simulation games, because you're right, it is a different kind of game. Like, you're not trying to kill something, and there's no levels or goals. You're just sort of trying to run something, right? Like, you're trying to make sure it works well, and it's sort of like, all these different aspects you have to manage and micromanage and try to maximize. So I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, I'm not huge into like the Sims and those kind of games, but I dug Roller Coaster Tycoon, man. It was a hell of a game. They've bastardized it a little bit with some of the releases recently, I feel like, but if you can find that classic version, everyone, it's just almost like you play that, you'll still play Oregon Trail once, you know what I mean? It's not a lot of fun, but it's like you'll still play because it's like the nostalgia. And the Roller Coaster Tycoon, you could get lost. I mean, I know always people play Fortnite and all that stuff. Yeah, that was probably my Fortnite. You know what I mean? That was the worst I ever got, was like doing the Roller Coaster Tycoon and being like 3 hours later, and I'm like, my ADD ass stayed in the seat for 3 hours doing that. So I thought it was a good game. Good choice. Ryan, what you got for number 4?
Well, Oregon Trail almost made my list too. That was up.
Mine too. It
was in consideration, but my number 4 is probably a pretty obscure pick. Listeners out there, it's not a very popular game, but everybody here is going to know it because I subjected it to them for over the years. And that'll be Zombies Ate My Neighbor. I mean, one of the most fun co-op games to just get with a friend together and play through. It had a wide variety of weapons and items that you could use. There's 48 different levels that you have to go through, and each level is unique. And a lot of them are playing homage to, classic horror movies and classic movie monsters. If you're a fan of that, it's cool. It's challenging, but it's still beatable. There's a lot of funny and humorous stuff throughout there, and it actually works like as a scary game. So if you're sitting there with almost no health and you got this little doll throwing hatchets at you, or if you hear a chainsaw in the distance and some guy in a Jason mask is coming after you. And the one thing about this game that was cool, it had save codes. every 4 levels, which people today aren't going to understand what save codes are. But the thing is that they have these save codes, but to actually beat the game, you needed all the items that you get throughout the game. So you had to play 48 levels through straight. And I mean, that's the thing that kids don't get these days, that just leaving the game on pause and leaving the TV on all night just so you could pick it up the next day. I mean, no one will get that reference today. And
I do, because I leave my work monitor just turned off so I can play it the next day without logging out.
And it's also probably one of the first games where you can pick a female character. So, you know, pretty groundbreaking stuff on that end.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about this game because the first time I played it is when you made me play it with you. So playing this game with Ryan is about as fun as watching paint dry, no pun intended there, Danny.
Well, sounds
Paint
like
dry is fun, but you know, Ryan just wants to drag you around, do everything, take all the weapons. You know, he starts yelling at you if you try to grab a weapon before he does, because he needs to grab it because he knows what to do with it. So the game's it's very particular. You know, you have to do very certain things in a certain order, and if you don't and you're playing with Ryan, you get yelled at. So I gotta give a thumbs down for Zombie Ate My Underpants.
So yeah, I mean, the game's pretty fun. I'm not a super hater of it, but yeah, it's just like, yeah, I mean, your experience is shaped by the people that are around you when you experience it, right? So, you know, if you get drunk on alcohol and you're with somebody that's terrible the first time, it's probably not going to be fun. So Ryan pooping on you the first time you play a game, I understand it, you know, wearing on you over and over again. I've had many times, you know, that happened many a times, but I found a game that I can beat him in, and that's the only game we play now. So, no, I mean, it's an entertaining game. I wasn't focused enough to be able to do the whole game though, to complete the whole game. Jonas, what do you think?
I don't, Ryan, I hope you don't take this offensively here. If I played it once, I was probably just too mad that you were beating me so bad that I don't remember playing it. I know you've referenced it a bunch, and I know zombie games like Zombies vs. Plants and Mutant League Hockey and Mutant League Football, all that stuff. I remember those, but this particular game I don't remember, so I can't give it a thumbs up or thumbs down.
It's a gem. You should check it out if you get the chance.
I mean, I think we got some time on our hands. I'll check it out.
Sounds like if same thing happened to you that happened to Ronnie, you blacked it out of your memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's so bad of a memory for you. So, Ronnie, we'll move on so that you guys don't traumatize yourself any further. What do you got at your number 4?
All right, yeah, I sort of have another horror game, kind of. I never played horror games until this one. It's Resident Evil 2. It was my first foray into survival horror, and I remember playing it on the original PlayStation at my friend other Ryan's house. And, you know, it was scary. I never played a game where I wasn't excited to open the next door, or, you know, all the music stops and you're like, oh shit, like something's about to happen, and all of a sudden this big asshole breaks through the brick wall and is chasing you down the corridor, and you don't know if you should shoot him or run into the next door. And I've never been so excited to see typewriter ink laying on the floor so I could save my progress. So Resident Evil games were fun because they gave you a different experience. Yeah, they really sort of played with your psyches and your fear emotion, and I really enjoyed it playing that growing up.
Yeah, I never played it. Sounds a lot like Zelda. I don't know. There's all those games to me are like Zelda. If it's not Zelda, it's Zelda-like. Never a really big fan of those kind of games. Yeah, never. I mean, maybe I don't even know if I ever watched anybody play it. You know what I mean? Didn't know anybody that had it. Pretty terrible choice, in my opinion. So apologize, Ronnie. I'm sorry, but that one, first one was good, but man, I'm not sure about this guy. I don't know.
Danny,
what do you think, Jonas?
I'm with you there. I don't think I ever played it, but and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but if I'm thinking of the correct game, it was one of the first games that had like cinematic scenes.
Yeah.
So it was fun to watch, and I remember Ian Brooks's basement. He would play down there, and I would just be enthralled watching it, but I never actually played it, so I can't. It's definitely not on my list, but no, it was one of those games like as the cinematic scenes evolved like that. That was one of the ones that I remember being one of the first of, and it kind of it helped in telling the story and not just kind of putting you somewhere and you assume what the story is.
I mean, this game's so terrible. Ronnie's yawning through it, and it's his own choice. Ryan, what do you think?
I think it's a good pick.
Thanks, Ryan.
I have fun. I agree with you that it was actually scary. I remember being like 11, 12 years old and playing this at John Emmel's house at 3 a.m. and we'd sit there and play with the lights off because it just has those jump scares where people come out and jump at you. And it's also scary because you have limited resources. It's not a game where you have unlimited ammo and shit like that today. You have a certain pack and you can put whatever you want in that pack and you have to arrange it so you can carry this gun or that gun and certain items. So you might have a shotgun with 3 bullets. So, hey, should I use it on this guy or do I need to run around him and get away? So it's like actual survivor horror. It's not just like you're blowing through everybody. So that's a good pick. I think number 4 was one of my favorite games of all time, but number 2 is definitely low.
So I'll move on to my number 3. It's going to be quick because it's in the NHL series. It was NHL. I think I had 93. I think 94 might have been the one I preferred, but I also like 96. I remember, like, I was looking through the games and kind of seeing, the different layouts, and you can kind of tell the difference a little bit by the ice color was a little bit different each year. But no, I thought that series in general was a solid, sports series that probably gets a little bit overlooked. I mean, I think because of the Beamers and our connection to the Capitals, we probably, enjoyed hockey a little bit more than a normal person would in general. But it's one of those games where it was fun. It was a fun game to play, even if you're not a big hockey person. So, Conis, what you got at number 3?
Number 3 is, so, we were talking about WWF, and Ronnie picked the worst of those wrestling 4-player games.
That's the first one.
Yeah, but my favorite multiplayer game, and this is one that we could, any sleepover we had in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, we'd be up to like 4 a.m. and then we would play it till one of our parents woke up, essentially, and it was GoldenEye.
Yeah.
It was just like, there were first-person shooters before on the PC and everything, and there was something about the multiplayer aspect of this game that there were so many different scenarios, so many different ways you could play, and then, if you were by yourself, like the campaign aspect of it, it was still entertaining. It still told a story. You could kind of pick your level going through it. It wasn't the same every time, so you could kind of advance at your own pace. But it made number 3 just because I think of that as like an ultimate like 4-player party game.
Yeah, it might be one of the best multiplayer games of all time. The only reason it didn't make my list is because I don't think it aged well. If you try to go back and play it now, it's just so slow when you have 4 people. It's just literally just choppy on how you do it. But I mean, yeah, I don't think we definitely never played a game with 4 people more than that. I mean, we would play that game for hours and hours, to where you go touch your N64 and it was just like burning because it's so hot because you've been playing it for 10 hours straight. But also, like, the levels in that game, I thought they were they're amazing. Because I actually preferred Perfect Dark to GoldenEye, but the only levels I would play is the levels that they ported over from GoldenEye. So that's a good pick.
Ronnie?
Yeah, I originally had GoldenEye on my list. I felt that it would be mentioned by someone, and I'm glad it did. GoldenEye is exactly what Eric and Ryan were saying. It's sort of one of those games that really was the first of its kind. The first foray a lot of us had going into first-person shooters, and now you look at games like Call of Duty and Halo and even Fortnite, and you're looking at these games and they're all being drawn, straight from GoldenEye. The same concepts, the map concepts, the random weapons are throughout, the pickups, headshots against your friends. You got to aim for the head, and strafing and moving side to side. There's no jumping in it, which Ryan's right. Like if I try to play it now, I'm like, what the hell? Like it's like I'm stuck on the goddamn floor or whatever. But it is a great game. We played it so much. We used to play our own different sort of scenarios with rocket launches only or proximity mines only, and you sort of just throw proximity mines in a room and you hide in there and wait till someone tries to come in, and it was real fun.
I'm not going to talk too much about it because it made my list. It's a little bit higher up. But I echo a lot of what's being said, and I'll mention just a few things on my end when it's my go at it. But Ryan, what do you got for your number 3?
So for number 3, I've got Pokemon Red and Blue. So I guess no one on here is a fan of it, but it's a phenomenon, guys. No game has spawned more, spin-offs or sequels than this game. Ronnie's hating on it, but this guy plays Pokemon Go, so I don't know what he's hating on. It spawned TV shows and movies that are still going on today. They have their own stores in Japan called Pokemon Centers. And this game had everything about an old school game that I like. This was in the early days of the internet, where you'd go on these fake websites and they'd have all this wrong information about how to get certain different Pokemon and stuff like that didn't exist. There's glitches in the game, which I liked, where you could go and capture, missing number and gold ups at 158 level. And you could play this game through in a couple hours, or you could spend countless hours trying to capture all the Pokemon just to get some stupid certificate from Professor Oak. You got to name your rival, and I always named him Dick, which was hilarious. You have to be able to trade with your friends and battle your friends. So, I don't know. Great game.
Was this on? What platform was this on? Because I want to make sure I'm thinking of the right game.
Game Boy.
That's what I thought.
Original Game Boy.
Yeah, I'm not hating on it. I was just laughing. I don't know why I was laughing, guys, because everyone else was laughing. I think it's a good pick. I used to dabble. I dabbled in the Pokemans, and I did play Pokemon Go, and I think one of the fun parts about it is just sort of that aspect of it's sort of like a card game, but it's not like you have this avatar that walks around and he's battling other people, and like Ryan said, it spawned a lot of spin-offs and a lot of games. It's massively successful because people are just into collecting things, and then it's sort of at a very low level, like pets. You have pets that people love their pets. They like taking them and showing them off to people and stuff like that. And Pokemon really is sort of the digital version of that. So I actually think it's a really good pick. And I wasn't hating. Thanks.
Terrible pick. I'm hating big time. This game is terrible. All of them are terrible. I can't believe it. There's so many spin-offs. I can't believe it. You can Pikachu these nuts right off the screen. The game makes me angry. I know Drew Brees loves it because there's so many of the Pokemon Go loose in New Orleans, but man, count me out, bro. Count me out.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't think I've ever played this game. It was just not. I feel like the same time this game came out, Pogs came out. It was play this game or Pogs. I feel like Ryan was one of the few kids that did both very well. But no, it's the I know the main characters, but that was just it was just something I never got into. So I can't say good pick or bad pick.
Yeah. Terrible pick.
Great pick.
Ronnie, what are you number 3? I think here, right?
Yeah. Number 3. I'm thinking I'm getting all positive comments from you guys on this one, but Mario Kart 64, such a great game. I can't tell you how many times we played that game, just like GoldenEye and the wrestling games and Mario Kart as well. The original SNES one was great. This one sort of took it to another level. With the 4-player and the battles. You just go around battling each other. You don't even have to race. And racing games to me before that were just all sort of like, hold, accelerate, and brake when you need to. This game really introduced power-ups, introduced, sabotage, and just different characters did different things well. You had some that accelerated well but didn't have a good top speed, and vice versa, and everything in between. And it really started like the whole spin-off thing of a franchise. You had a franchise like Super Mario, and you made a game that isn't Super Mario at all. It's just aesthetically Super Mario, but it's really done well. And so I love Mario Kart 64.
It didn't make my list. For some reason, every time I think about Mario Kart 64, I also think about Star Fox, which I feel is another great game that we played a lot of. But great game. Definitely deserves to be on somebody's list. I almost forgot about it, to be quite frank. But it's great. It is a great game, great multiplayer game. And it was cool to do some of the battle scenes. I thought were pretty cool. And it was definitely a very good game. What do you think, Conan?
No, it was like I said, I compiled my list. I didn't want too many multiplayer games on, and it seems like that's all Ronnie wanted.
Yeah, that's all I have so far.
But no, that was a close second to GoldenEye. And it's funny because like they're both on the same platform. It was both like the first time you could play 4 players, and I feel like in GoldenEye when players lost, like you kind of accepted it. I don't think I've ever seen more kids cry than when they got hit by red shells or blue shells right before they were about to cross the finish line, because it was just so unexpected, and like slamming controllers and going out into the next room. So no, that was definitely a good game. And as Ronnie said, the 2 different modes, like the versus, or even if you had two players, you could do the Grand Prix or whatever. But the battle mode, man, I remember all the daycare kids, they would just go home and cry about it.
Yeah, I think it's the best Mario Kart that's ever been made. I've played some of the newer ones, and it's like you want to go into the 3rd lap being in last place, because you get all these crazy items that will get you in first place. It gets you the items that you need to get back, but they're not cheap as shit. And I mean, like you can't even do battle mode in the newer ones because it's like team battle mode, so nobody loses.
Yeah.
Like this is, battle mode, and that was awesome as shit because even after you lost, you got to be a bomb and you could go around and try to hit people, which was almost just as fun as winning. You could go try to get the person that killed you or whatever.
Yeah.
So, that was a great pick.
Yeah, lots of sabotage. I love it.
Yeah. Well, as I stay with my theme as well as into another sports game, this one I'll tell like a personal story. I've actually laughed out loud multiple times the last couple of days because of this personal story. But Madden 64, I felt like I had to put a Madden game on there. The story I'm going to tell is going to bring a tear to Ryan's eye. But that game was one of the first games where you could like make your own person, and Ryan made like a 7'4", as heavy as you could make him, fullback or something. That had like the highest rankings that you could put him. And he had played like 3 games in the season with him, and the guy had already had like 600 yards rushing and all these touchdowns. And I really wanted to play it down with him. And basically, the only way you could stop this guy was apparently if you handed me the controller. I played one down, and the guy went down for the season. And the ambulance came out onto the field, and it was, I mean, it basically, I mean, his career was over after that. He never rebounded. Ryan never rebounded either with sports games. I feel like after that, I feel like he felt like I personally hurt the guy. Like I went into the game and did it. But yeah, he basically broke his leg on the one play that I had it. But yeah, Madden 64, I just felt was, started, really started to amp up the intensity with some of the football games. But I thought it was a good one. Conis, what do you think?
Was that the one where they wouldn't like they didn't get the license and they started making up cities for certain teams? Or was that on a previous one? I might be thinking of the wrong one.
That was the previous one.
I do remember you doing that. I think I might have actually been there. And but the dude Ryan created was a giant, and it was always FP dive running for 80 yards. And I think Ryan started punching you at one point, if I remember correctly, because you ruined that guy's day.
You could make him 7'2", 400 pounds, and just FB dive for you'd either break through for a touchdown or at least get 10 yards every time. And Danny comes in, gets him hurt, lays down the controller on our hardwood floor, and we had a rumble pack. So all the rumble pack was doing was like so like just like haunted my dreams of that. But that was a great game. There's actually an option in that game to turn off the Maddenisms. I mean, what madman would turn off John Madden given those great?
That's what made part of the game.
I mean, his stupid remarks. I don't know, brick wall could run that fast.
Yep.
They're amazing.
I love football games. I'm sure that's a great one. I'm not sure if I played it. I played NFL QB Challenge, I think it was called. I had that one with Brett Favre. Yeah, QB Club. That one sucked. But I remember Madden.
Yeah, I didn't like the game. I only liked playing like when they could do the challenge. That's what I was saying. Remember, you could do like the QB challenge and throw it into a target and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the Madden one, I remember one of the versions they used to have an ambulance that would drive out onto the field if someone got hurt. So that's kind of cool. Football games.
That's
really
what happened. The ambulance had to come out. They had to have 2 ambulances come out for Ryan's guy.
Yeah.
They dropped them trying to put him in the ambulance, which I've never seen happen.
Yeah, he's 7'4", 400 pounds. He had to bring the forklift out.
So we're already up to number 2 for Mr. Walukonis.
All right. Sorry, let me reset on my list here. Number 2. It's the only system that made 2 games on my list. Nintendo 64, and it's their original character, Mario 64. It was a tough call for me between that one and Super Mario 3. I feel like Super Mario 3 it started the kind of like create your own adventure, like with their levels and stuff, because you could skip certain ones. But for 64, like you could always go back and you could replay levels if you wanted. And then within the game, like within the levels and collecting stars, you could actually beat the game, but then go back and find all the Easter eggs and get, I think it was 120 stars, maybe it was 121. I don't know the exact number, but like once you beat the game, there was still stuff to do, and you could save it. And like I convinced my parents down to keep the one bubble TV they have in Ocean City because I still want to play that game when I go down there. So no, Mario 64, a close beat out of Super Mario 3, but just the way, like the graphics too, coming off of I think Sega or I don't know if Dreamcast was before 64. Because if it was, then 64 took a big step back. But 64 still, and that's one of those games, the replayable factor. I feel like you can get tired of Super Mario 3 and you can't save it. Like that was one of the games you had to sit through and play. So Super Mario 64 takes the number 2 spot.
Ryan.
All I'm hearing in my brain right now is that crying penguin from the ice level, just over and over again when you got to deliver it to its mom. But Mario was really cool. There's a lot of, you know, it was a fun game in general, but there's just fun stuff you could do within the game, like riding turtle shells around and knocking over people, racing penguins and stuff like that. Uh, when you get the flying hat and stuff like that, it's a good game and it's a challenging game. So I mean, there's levels that are fun to play and levels that are just fucking brutal. So
Yeah, I loved that game when it came out. It's the reason I bought a Nintendo 64. I was very excited for it, and it sort of lived up to the expectation of 3D Mario. You think about the earlier Mario games, all 2D side scrollers. This is the first one where you didn't always have to go forward. You could explore. You could find those stars. You could go back. The swimming level. I remember like just the giant creatures at the bottom and the different things you could do in that game were a lot of fun. And I remember the first boss too, the giant King Babam at the top of the mountain. You get up to him and it's like a like a sort of like a wacky little battle against him, and it was the first game of its kind, and that it was a really important game.
It was like a limited RPG almost.
Yeah, definitely, and I loved it. Good pick.
Yeah, I'm not as big into the Mario world as everyone else, but I respect the Mario world heavily. I do understand. I do appreciate it. I'm not as good at those games and those kind of games in general, but can understand it. Make one of those making the list. Figured one of the Mario's would make somebody's list. So, Ryan, what you got for number 2?
number 2, I got the best beat 'em up game of all time. And that'll be Streets of Rage 2. I mean, there's nothing like getting together with one of your friends and just battling your way through this. There's 4 unique different characters that you could choose from. I mean, so you could play this game 24 different times and each experience be unique for you. It's got the best music of any game of all time. I think that's without a doubt. Uh, I got a CD of this music that I still listen to when I'm driving my car because it's so amazing. Uh, Street Fighter 4 just came out a month ago, and there's an option to play the old music, and you can unlock the characters from Street Fighter 2. So all I do is play with the Street Fighter 2 characters and listen to the old music because there's no beating it.
That's cool.
Ryan, was this game out before, like, I remember the arcade, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle walkthrough kind of fight style. Was that out before, do you know?
This was 92. The original Turtles might be like 91, so maybe Turtles came out before.
Yeah, and what if it wasn't original, then, and if Turtles was original, then this game blew Turtles out of the water.
Because Turtles was fun, but all you could do was do jump kicks. I mean, that's really all you could do. You had special moves in this game. You had different weapons. You had hidden stuff in the game. So.
Yeah, no, it's a good pick for the like you said the kind of walkthrough, just bash them up. There was no, I mean that's what it was. It gave it to you what was up front about it. Like beat these guys, beat the boss, beat the game.
It was one of the first games me and my brother got into a fight over because I had like 80% life. He had like 20%, and I grabbed the turkey. So he got real mad at me because he needed it more. But I told him he shouldn't have gotten whooped by that guy with the pipe. I had to save his ass again. So if you're the MVP, you get the turkey. If you're not, man, just sit on the sidelines and don't get hurt.
You are a turkey.
I do the game. I appreciate this game as well. Didn't make my list. Not really close. It's a pretty fun game. But yeah, I even know some of the characters. Remember the characters, and you could be a chick, a pretty big dude. I think a dude named Axel or something. So, it was fun for what it was. What do you got for Ronnie for number 2 already?
Yeah, so I said I had a simulation game, and I play this one a lot. SimCity 2000. I loved. I don't know where Eric went, but
he went to play the game, I think.
It was a great game. You you'd get all these complaints in the news about your citizens. And at first, I remember playing this, I was like, all right, let me try to do everything for you guys that I can. And then they just became like, spoiled little brats complaining about traffic, and they wanted they wanted railroads, and we don't have enough water, so you build them, pump stations, and you're just trying to do stuff for them, and then eventually you're just like, I hate you people. You're ungrateful, and I'm just going to start destroying all the parks because you don't deserve them, and neither do your kids. And it's fun being that sort of God mode type game where you can move stuff around, and a lot of games follow in that and those footsteps. And the original SimCity was cool too. I loved it, but 2000 really took it to the next level.
Yeah, I'm not a big, once again, not really a big simulation guy. Roller Coaster Tycoon is probably the deepest I'll dive into that realm. It's a little bit creepy in general, but yeah, I mean, do your thing, have fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, who am I to judge? Unless it's a terrible pick, which I feel like this one's not that bad. So,
nice.
What you got, Conis?
It seems like it's the perfect game for Ronnie for all the reasons he listed. People complaining, and he can just kind of destroy things. So it makes sense that it's on his list. It was not even in consideration for mine.
Yeah, I mean, this game gives you like all the powers of being a god, and just makes it as boring as possible. I mean, you just got to sit there and build water tanks nonstop because no one ever has enough water. I'm pretty sure you have to go to town meetings and just listen to people complain for 45 minutes. The only thing good about this game is if you get far enough, I think UFOs start coming out and start destroying your city, which was cool.
Yeah, natural disasters are great.
Yeah, and natural disasters from WWE come out. Stuff, so that was cool. Other than that, I think it's pretty boring.
Well, so my number two, I'll move on to my number two, which has already been said, but GoldenEye, I'll take it back once again. Same year, it actually is Madden 64, 1997. Actually, right around the same time as the Griffey baseball game. And that, I felt like that kind of turned a corner, I guess, for me in some of these games, when we're talking graphics. But GoldenEye was just a great multiplayer game. Probably the most fun that I've ever had playing, multiplayer. And for somebody that's not like, I try these other games because I really think I want to get into it, like Modern Warfare. Like I have a Modern Warfare game, I have some of these other first-person shooters, and I'm terrible at them. I felt like GoldenEye was, somewhat easier, even though there were people that got really good, but there was it was a little bit easier to handle, I felt like. So that was my number two, even though we already talked about it. So we're not going to go too much further in depth, and we're already up to number one for Mr. Walukonis.
Number one for me is The Legend of Zelda on NES. It took me 34 years to beat that game. And I only did it because I had dual monitors and I could put a walkthrough on one of them and then play it on the other. But going back to it, it was such a challenge at the time, and you could always replay it differently. You didn't have to go to level 1. You could have started at level 3 if you wanted. And it was one of those games that actually you could save your game. It was kind of faulty at times, and that would really just devastate me when I got to level 4, level 5, and save it, and then come back, turn my NES on, and it would be start over. But it was, for NES, it had the save feature. You could walk through however you wanted to do it. And then what I found out a couple months ago when I did finally beat the game is that the game didn't end. It changed the whole map, and you could walk through it again. And to this day, I've still Googled and can't find a map walkthrough of the second world. So that's how hard it was. But no, that's a game that you could just keep replaying over and over.
Yeah, it's a good game, and it's definitely led to some of the best games of all time as well. Cool music, challenging the shit. I've never beaten it, that's for sure. You get to use different weapons, which was cool. So, decent pick.
I think it's a great pick. The Zelda series, this obviously was the first one, is probably my favorite video game series. The fact that you sort of have to progress in the game. It isn't like a Mario Brothers where you just run through, you get power-ups during the level, and then it restarts the next level. You need to get items to do specific things, and you need to find out where to use those items. I remember the first time we figured out to use the flute at that pond to open up the next dungeon. We'd been walking around aimlessly, like me and my brothers, like where the hell are we supposed to go? And at the time, contextually speaking, there wasn't the internet. There weren't any like guides you could buy. You literally had to call a number and they'd give you a tip. And that was at a time where video games are tough, and you guys said, like, I don't think I've actually ever beat the game. I might have beat it when I was in my 20s just because I was pissed and I really wanted to do it. Because I never had done it, but a tough game, and you need to be able to figure stuff out. And I love the progression of the whole Zelda series.
Yeah, this game is terrible. This is the cats of video games. If I could put worse video games out there, this would be my number one and number two. I mean, I don't think you were zero. Wasn't zero? Were you zero when that game came out? I mean, did that game come out before you were born? I mean, 34 years, that's terrible. It took you that long. Guess what? A sports game, if I beat it, I could beat a game today in like 20 minutes and I beat the game. You know what I'm saying? Fuck 34 years. You know what I mean? Give me some instant gratification. That game sucks, yo. Ugh, number one. Sorry. I might just get you banned from the podcast on that joint. I don't know.
Don't bring DJ back.
Terrible. Ryan, what do you got, man? I hope it's not Zelda.
It's not Zelda, so I'm assuming this will probably be number one on all three of our list because it is in fact the greatest video game ever created, and that's going to be, of course, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Greatest fighting game of all time. I mean, let's just start with the roster size. You get 56 different characters. I mean, this game is over 20 years old, and games being produced now don't even come close to that roster size. I mean, Street Fighter V was released a couple years ago with 16 fucking characters. I mean, you get to take Ryu and your favorite video game characters and put them like against your Marvel superheroes, and you actually get the Marvel superheroes you want, like the X-Men. I mean, they can't even make games like that anymore because of Marvel and Disney and the licensing issues. Good soundtrack. I Want to Take You for a Ride on the character select screen is amazing, and everyone that knows the song, it's going to be playing in their head for the rest of the game. There's a shop in the game where you can unlock character color and different things like that. I mean, now you have to buy new characters every month for $5, which is bullshit. I mean, this game up for 20 years and I still play it probably every week. It's been at the most Evos, which is like the Super Bowl for fighting games. It was supposed to be on this one, but it got canceled because of fucking COVID. This game also builds lifelong friendships. I made one of my best friends in the world, Ronnie Dar, by playing this game. I mean, 20 years ago, we used to play this game, and I would just whoop his monkey ass. And I mean, 20 years later, and nothing has changed. I beat him in the Nothing But Dan challenge. Definitely best fighting game ever.
Well, Ronnie, I think you need to respond right there, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, the end there, sort of, there's a lot of fluff coming from Ryan, but
Fluff?
Yeah, that game is the best fighting game ever, probably. The combo system, obviously the character selections, and you're talking about a game that you were able to tag out with different players. And I just remember like being little, and even before it came out on consoles, looking at people playing it in the arcades, I'm like, oh wow, that looks really cool. Like you could be Wolverine and you're fighting Ryu, or you could be Iron Man, or someone else from Capcom, like the Bionic Commando. And it was fun because every character is massively different from the other characters, and but you could also jump into it and play. I don't think it was so complicated to where a novice player couldn't just do what Danny does or James when he beat me once, is mash buttons and actually win. So you sort of it's very subtle, being someone that's advanced at it. You still, no matter who the challenger is, have to be on your toes. You have to play well to win. And a lot of skill, but it's easy to get into. And I think that was probably the best part of the game.
Yeah, for me, I guess it's cool you could choose other characters. I didn't know who any of the other characters were. I was like, where are these people coming from? So it wasn't that, for me, it wasn't as big a deal. I was like always picking the same people anyway for me. Ryan's doing a little bit of a dance with his technology. It's all good. It is what it is. It was all right. I guess it was. I don't know. I don't really dig those fighting games. So once again, I think I'm the wrong guy to ask. Cones, what do you think?
Now, any game that Ryan can kick Ronnie's ass is okay with me. The one thing that I think no one's mentioned, it was really cool. That it was. I don't remember like a better done video game that had a mashup of characters from two different arenas, and what was you could play like 40. How many characters were in there?
56.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So if you picked, if we did it a day, I mean that's 2 months of playing. If you picked one character a day. So, but no, the tag out, and I routinely get my ass kicked when Ryan hosts video game tournaments, but it's still a fun game to play.
Well, I guess 2 Februarys, but Ronnie, what do you? Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say that Ronnie kind of touched on it, that it's a deep enough fighting game that 20 years later, there's still like combos being discovered, but you could pick up the game and button mash and have a decent chance of beating somebody better than you as well. So,
all right. So passionate about is number one. Ronnie, what you got?
All right. Sorry, Danny. I know you hate Zelda, but I picked The Legend of Zelda, not Ocarina of Time, but Majora's Mask.
oh,
The best Zelda in the series. You're talking about probably the best game ever, Ocarina of Time. One of the most epic RPGs, action RPGs ever. Really took the Zelda formula to another level. And now you're adding in a Groundhog Day type of effect where, you're essentially Bill Murray and you're doing stuff and you can acquire items, but you only have a set amount of time to do it, and then you have to reset. So you have to play a song to go to the beginning and you have some new items, but then you just literally go through the same day over and over again until you can save the world from imminent doom. And that sort of aspect of it and all the nuance that was around it, the side quests, the different trading games you could do to advance your character that wasn't part of the main storyline was great. And it was a darker game. It was sort of a somber and melancholy game because the world's going to end, and you're the only person that can do anything about it. And it does end several times while you're playing. So I love that game. I've played it a bunch. It's always entertaining and fun, and I'm guessing I'm about to get some good comments from the reactions. So.
I mean, it just sounds like you're restarting the worst day of your life over and over again to me. So that's all I got to say. Walukonis, what do you got?
Ronnie went the opposite direction with his number one pick. He picked earlier. He picked the WCW game, the original, and he should have picked one later in the series. And if you're going to pick the 64 game, Ocarina of Time is the one to pick. This is not good, Ronnie.
yeah, I agree. If you picked another Zelda game, I probably wouldn't have argued with you. But I mean, you picked a game that you say you like that aspect of them starting over. I mean, that wasn't like an intentional design. It was forced because they were trying to rush out this game with a limited budget and get it out there. So they made you save and start over. It's not that they did that on purpose. It's that they had to do that because of the constraints that they're under. So it's like, why would you like something? Look it up.
Google it.
Google it.
So that's the fundamental dynamic of the game, though, is that
it's
You have
That's
a
what they
certain
made you
amount of
believe.
time before the world ends.
yeah,
That's what they
because
made you believe.
it's a forced fucking constraint that they put in there because they had to deal with it because they had
Right,
some.
but the aspect of the world ending doesn't preclude progression. Like you do a certain amount of things in your first attempt, and you get certain items that'll help you in the beginning of the day the next time you play the day. So if in like if the day starts at 7 a.m. and at 8 a.m. this guy is walking through the market from 8 to 9, but you don't have a certain item, and then you get it at 11 a.m., you can play your little flute to go back in time and then catch him at that 8 to 9 frame or whatever. And that was cool.
But I'm 90 way through,
Ugh.
getting an item or doing something I need to do, and I save the game and start all over again.
You don't save the game. You play the ocarina and you go back to the beginning. You don't have to
You have
save.
to do it again.
This is so we've obviously had two terrible picks at number one. I'm gonna save everybody with my number one, and this is the greatest game of all time. It is 1993's Micro Machines. Yes, Micro Machines is the greatest game of all time. It's the greatest racing game of all time. It's so much fun. They have great characters. They got sloppy big guys. They got rock guys. They got chicks. They got everything you wanted. And the awesome thing to me, especially in the time, man, you were racing like helicopters, like tanks, a boat, like I mean, these were things that it's like you would just be in like a car racing before this. Micro Machines is the jam.
How much you liked it.
All the different kinds of lures they had, but otherwise it's a good game in general. So, Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll co-sign on your pick there, Danny. It was one of the only games playing where after I was done playing, I would want to go recreate it in my living room.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
or down the pool table, which shout out to that side pocket that you vomited
That's
in
right.
a couple years ago. But like you would try to recreate the courses that you could. But no, it was, as a racing game goes, it was unique. And no, that's a game that when we get dealer's choice in Ryan's tournaments, Micro Machines is always my number one pick.
Yep.
No, it's a good game. I mean, it puts you in a miniature car and lets you race around all these different tracks and stuff like that. So you do a pool table, you do a bathtub, you do on a table where someone's having breakfast. I mean, the different, cars that you can get are cool too. Like having tank battles against opponent is funny as shit every time. So it's a good racing game.
Listen, guys, I know this is a nostalgia thing for you. This isn't even the best racing game on this list. Mario Kart is a superior game. Micro Machines is just one screen. It's not split screen. So if you're like James Dennison, you suck. You keep falling off. Like you spin, and you get back on the screen. It's stupid. There's no real aspect of winning and losing. Is just towards the end. Like you sort of figure out if you have enough lives left, and if you're still on the main screen, then you have a chance to win. And I didn't like how it was like the viewpoint was static and you had to like sort of turn right, but the screen didn't turn. It just stayed very static. And, that's not even the top 5 racing game ever, to be honest with you guys. Sorry, Danny, poor pick. 2 thumbs down.
That's what happens when you have a terrible number one and you get bashed for it. All right, the moral question of the week better be a good one, Ronnie.
Moral question of the week. Yes, the moral question of the week. What are we doing today? All right. Moral question of the week is lying on your resume. Is it okay to lie on your resume? A lot of people think it isn't okay. A lot of people think it's okay. Is it all right to lie on your resume?
If you got the skills to back it up, but not professionally, like if you didn't professionally do those skills, then yeah. Like if you're a computer programmer and you know how to do something, but the previous jobs you had didn't necessarily utilize those skills, then yeah. But I guess you're not lying at that point.
No, it's not a lie.
But if you put it in as like a job skill under that company,
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a lie, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
talking about a blatant lie.
like what I was CEO of a company before.
Or
Yeah.
like
You'll figure it
you
out.
didn't necessarily, or you didn't graduate from a college that you say,
Yeah. Or if you want to fill in
something like
like
that, because even like those kind of things, like,
yeah, like say you didn't get a job right out of college and you had to fill in a year and you just made up a job.
Oh, that's fine.
I think nowadays it's a lot harder to do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think probably like even now, like when I'm like, you can search people so easily now. I feel like yeah, I mean, I guess it shouldn't depend on the situation, but I guess it kind of does. And nowadays I just feel like you can't get away with it. So I feel like it's not even like a. I mean, I guess it's a thing because I think it's, but now it's like almost like not just like lying. It's almost like it's all complete fraud. Like you got to create like a backstory and
Right.
come up with like an actual like
It's more
certificate. It's like it's more in depth than like just the old, hey, I said I graduated, with honors or whatever.
it's more work than it's worth at this point.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you're not hopping on this more, Danny. I mean, the person that loves to lie more than anybody else and just creating backstories that are completely pointless. I thought you'd be all over this.
Well, but pointless where it like doesn't affect anybody else really.
I
Like,
mean,
I feel
I'm
like
not-
if I lied and I all of a sudden got a job.
I don't
Yeah.
think
Go ahead, Ryan.
I don't think resumes are a really good indicator of how an employee is going to be anyway.
No.
I mean, you can meet somebody and tell within 10 seconds if they're going to be, you can tell more in 10 seconds than you can reading a resume over and over again. So I think it's really indicative of the type of employee that you're going to get out easier. I mean, there's a lot of idiots that have very good, credentials.
No, right to that point. I think it's you to an extent. I would say yes because you just want to get that to that interview point where you can kind of better explain things. But I mean, if that's the first step to getting into, like if I just listed, oh yeah, I cooked crabs for 7 years and kind of didn't elaborate, or like it also depends on what kind of job you're going for. But to get in the door, I feel like you do need to at least embellish a little bit.
I mean, coming out of college, how many jobs did you apply for that say you need 3 to 5 years of experience?
Right, and they all said entry level.
Yeah, you're getting paid fucking $30,000 a year or some bullshit. Like, it's like, how do you even get in that position? Who's going to give you experience?
Right. So that's where I'll make my point. If the job description itself is going to lie to you, then you can lie back.
So, a lot of good banter here. The real answer is it's absolutely necessary to lie on your resume. Why? Because of what you just said. The job description is completely wrong. They want someone that could literally move mountains with their knowledge, and they'll pay you minimum wage. Like the salary is like 25K to 35K, some bullshit like that. They want you to run a whole finance department for $40,000 a goddamn year. No one's ever going to do that, right? They want you to have like a fucking bachelor's, a master's, a CPA, a PhD. It's bullshit. In reality, a job interview is literally Team A lying to Team B. The job is a lie. You don't know. Every job is particular. It's a fucking lie, right? How does this stuff translate to one thing or another? No one knows, right? And then you, on the other hand, are saying, oh, well, I've done all of these different things. That's bullshit. Most people do 1 or 2, maybe 3 different broad tasks a day. You're not doing full cycle AP, AR, and the bank rec every month. That's absolutely insane for most companies, unless it's a smaller company. So not only should you lie on your resume, you should lie more than what is being lied to you. because the company's lying, they're bullshitting, you have to bullshit. And really, who gets the job? The person that can bullshit the best.
Or
That's
the person
it.
they like the most.
Right. If you're being truthful, if you're being honest, right, and everybody wants to hire the honest, truthful employee, and you put all the right stuff on there, right, someone's going to look at your resume and say, nope, you put all the wrong stuff on there that you haven't done, that's fake. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, we should get him in for an interview, right? That's all it does. It gets you in for an interview. After that, it's all garbage. So lie on your resumes, say you can do the job, fake it till you make it, and then that's it. You got it.
I appreciate another week of Hurt Pressure. Conus, we appreciate, you coming on. I figure, you go out, come into Little Good Charlotte, go out to Little Good Charlotte. Appreciate you guys making it for Volume 4. The true Annapolitan himself, Eric Walukonis, coming on and sharing his knowledge. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good weekend, guys.
Thanks, guys.
I'll be on time next time, I promise.